Hey, well, I have that it's 6 p.m. Central Time. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I am recording this, and I can hang on to that for people. I wanted to just go ahead and get started and welcome everybody. This is the Marketing for Retail Agriculture webinar, and this is the first in a series of winter webinars that is sponsored by the South Dakota Specialty Producers Association. And we are hosting these for farmers, producers, especially specialty crop producers, for farmers markets and growers in South Dakota. And we are so excited tonight to have Eric Barrett and Rob Leeds of the Ohio State University kicking off our conference with this topic. They have experience, both of them have experience in both marketing and agriculture. And in addition to being educators, they have presented at a variety of conferences, and we actually found them because they did the keynote address for the Minnesota Fruit and Vegetables Grower Association conference just this past year. So they come to us with the wealth of knowledge, and they also have traveled all over the country, it seems, and including South Dakota. So visiting farms and farmers markets and consulting on all types of retail agriculture and agritourism as well. So when I met them, they were already familiar with South Dakota, with our markets, with our producers, and even knew some names out there. We had some different vendors and people to discuss. And so we tonight are going to get some practical advice, and that will help you and your agricultural business. And I'd like to just go ahead and turn it over to Eric and Rob.
Okay, thank you very much. We're happy to be here, happy to share some things of South Dakota. I was there a couple years ago and visited as many markets as I could as we had our conference in Sioux Falls, and drove around for 2 days and captured all I could. You'll see a few photos in here. If they're yours, raise your hand if they're of your business, all in the good example categories of what to do right. So I'm Eric Barrett. She did a great job introducing us. A lot of this is based on research we've done across the country. Rob goes to a North American Farmers Direct Marketing Conference, so he has a more Canadian experience too than I do. But we've been on the farm, at the farmers markets, taking photos, learning, sharing our expertise, and every once in a while we rent a car and we go do some consultation. We did that in Tennessee a year and a half ago, and did a good talk there with Grandpa's farm. Granddaddy's farm, I'm sorry. It's a trademark name. So we'll share a lot of our experiences and really focus tonight. We're going to focus on farmers markets, but Rob's going to start and talk about some trends and some other things. If you look in the chat, there's a link there, go.osu.edu/South Dakota. That's the handouts for tonight. And also there's lots of other information on there. Our keynote from Minnesota is on that site. So take a look at that. And there's our pictures. If you can't see us there. And away we go, Rob. It's all yours.
All right. Thanks, Eric. And like Eric said, we've been around a little bit, good or bad, but the best part of it is Eric and I are both farmers too. So, think of us as just, we're down at the coffee shop, just chatting. We just happen to teach for the university too. And, how they say is if you can't do it, you're going to teach it. So me and Eric decided, well, we're going to do it too. And then we'll let people know or how we can do. But we want to start off with this idea that we are here to help. And I'm sure your farms are all awesome already. How can we make them a little bit better? But this is your farm. Remember, be proud of what you have, because that goes a long way in stepping into that marketing arena. You have to be sold on the shot. In other words, you need to really think about your farm. Next one, and Eric, in the next slide talks about, remember, you don't need a lot of money. Go ahead there. Okay. You don't need a lot of money to make a good marketing plan or to have a good farmer's market stand. Here's a good example too. To get any fresher milk, you need cows in the backyard. We don't need a fancy sign. All we need is a little bit of creativity. And, we all know that farmers can be really creative when it comes to producing. And, we want to use that creativity and put it into marketing too. So for tonight's agenda, we're going to look at about 3 different things here. We're going to give you an idea here up front about the resources and the trends. Eric already gave you the website there, and we'll talk a little bit about what we got on there. We're going to talk about opportunities for farmers market vendors. There's 2 different markets we're going to talk about. The vendors are going to be the first part of it. We're going to talk a little bit about what we see has worked, and they're in order. You can kind of look at those and give you an idea. This is what we see when we go around out there, what's working and what's not as far as marketing. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the attributes for the best farmers markets. So when you're out there looking for a market to be a vendor in, these are the things you want to look for. But tonight, Eric and I do a lot of different things, but tonight we're going to focus on farmers markets with ideas from everybody across the arena. Once again, you don't have to be big. You don't have to have a lot of money to implement some creative ideas. So once again, the resources we have available, ou.osu.edu/direct marketing. That is our website. It's a blog site. We have information on customer service that you can use. Customer service is good at any venue. We talk about agritourism trends, and a lot of those agritourism trends really can be extrapolated and used in a farmer's market vendor area too. So take a look at those. There's a lot of food things in there that you can kind of look at. We have some activity decision-making charts. And the one I really like, and I think what you guys would get a lot out of, is this marketing with your senses. A lot of farmers market examples in there, but marketing with all your senses. And when we talk about those, touch and seeing and smelling and hearing, how do we use those senses to market? So on the next slide, we got a little bit of a preview of one of the things we have out there. This is our 1-page marketing plan, which talks about marketing strategies, which are them right for your farm. Once again, first thing off, think about your family, think about your business. In farming, it's not a 9-to-5 job. So you got to love it, right? Because you're going to go in there, you're going to eat it, you're going to drink it, you're going to love it. But it's something that's going to fill up your whole life. So we always start off with that when we talk about our marketing plan. Talk about our resources, strengths, capabilities, and then talk about the lifestyle and the motivations behind it. Because farming really is a very personal type operation, and you have to really enjoy it to do a good job at it. I've always thought that too. Any comment, Eric, before we move on?
So this is just the starting point, but on the next slide, we're really going to talk about those trends to make this work. Because before you decide what social media you use, when we get into that real quick here, we really need to understand not only what your business goals are, your family goals, but what those trends are for the future, because you need to meet those trends to have good sales and make some profit. So here we go.
Eric's right. You start off with what, your family, what you want to do. Then you think about my customer base. What are they looking for? So right now, what we're looking at is, and this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, over 54% is going to take a healthy food item over taste and over price. Price is a fairly low shopping demographic. We don't have it up here, but most of them I've seen are in that 9 or 10% shop strictly on price. Healthfulness, that is what they're looking for. Snacking foods have also raised in viability. 26% of the people snack, and 38% of them snack only. So once again, that's that idea that you're not sitting down to a big meal. You're just kind of grazing through the day and kind of snacking as you go through. So keep that in mind as you go through. Customer base, looking at healthfulness and looking at snacks. What do they want when they look at some food? They want something safe. Once again, that's become bigger and bigger, this safety. COVID has brought that out once again. People are looking for safe options. And that doesn't mean just the food itself, but they want a contact-free way of transacting on that food so they can get that and move on and feel safe about it. And then once again, they want delivery if possible. They can take a look at it and see, how can I get this delivered? Once again, Walmart, Kroger's, a lot of our big supermarkets are taking advantage of that too. Our clientele is starting to cook more at home, and that shouldn't become as a surprise because a lot of us are now working at home. So we have a little more time than we had to drive that extra hour or whatever to get into to work. Around us down here, commute of an hour is fairly normal. And I know if you go East Coast, it's probably 2 hours. So cooking, creating, they want to be creative in what they do because they want something that is savory. They want something that is going to be different. Breakfast items have been growing over the years, and this year was no exception. Once again, breakfast is huge. Local meats, poultry, beef, pork. If anybody's tried to book a processing appointment, it's really tough to get. I know even down here, which we're not a big in Central Ohio, we're not a big cattle area, but we're already booking into 22, and they're usually into March of 22. So once again, that local flavor, meat, poultry, pork, the idea is that's something that people are really looking to kind of set it apart from what they usually get. So farmers markets can be at the forefront of that. Retail agriculture I don't know about your area, but in our area, 2020 farms did an excellent job because the pandemic has brought a lot of people out that are looking for those local foods. Overall, most of the farms Eric and I have talked to are looking at about a 20% improvement over 2019. Now we'll see what 21 brings, but I would think that trend would continue, and I think a lot of our farmers are looking at that, at least in Ohio. Eric, comment?
Lots of big improvements, especially like Rob said on the meat side. A lot of farmers we're talking to are just saying we ran out. We couldn't get more appointments. We're out of freezer beef for now. When it came to agritourism, all the farms, even with the regulations and such, were really able to change their business and change how they operate in general. So almost everyone went to time ticketing, which helped spread out the crowds, reduce labor costs, and really made a big difference for a lot of the folks that have pumpkin farms and things like that in the fall.
Mm-hmm. And I tell you, that was the biggest, hardest to get commodity right now was a processing time. And a lot of us had to do with, some of the COVID issues, but a lot of it was just everybody going local, and they were ready to, to support their local communities. And I think that all bodes well for us. So in next slide, we got a picture of of one of our handouts that you can go with. This is our one-page market, or an extension of our one-page marketing sheet. Once again, what do you want to look at as you go through? First of all, as Eric talked about earlier, we need to think about our target audience. One of the trends we saw a couple of years ago that there were more men shopping farmers markets than usual. We're seeing an uptick. So question to you guys, do men and women shop the same when they come to farmers markets? No, they're very different. Men, we just kind of walk through there. We got to focus. We're going to buy one thing and that's it. Where women in general, browse, and they're more likely to go into booths and talk to things. So if you got high men concentration, then they're going to take a little bit of different advertising, things that catch their eyes, bring them in. They bring them into your booth. So think about that as you go to that. The next thing you want to think about the manpower. How much time is it going to take me to advertise? Think about the costs. And I think the most important thing, Eric, that we really have to look at is this success indicators. Because too often we don't evaluate, our marketing strategies. And really, if we don't have a success indicator that we picked up early, it's hard to evaluate that. Well, I meant to do that. That looked good. We need to make sure we're getting money for our, some bang for our buck. As you go down through there, we talk about the logo. That's someplace you can, really create a brand. Signage, huge. We'll talk about that as we go through there. Make sure it's eye-catching and it's informational. Once again, when you communicate, it's not only about communicating the information, it's about inspiring the buyers. Keep that in mind. That's very critical as you go through. Make them excited about dealing with you. Customer service, talk a little bit about that. Hiring and training your employees. Look at your content. Do you want to write? How do you infographics you want to use? Photography, videos. How do you want to do that? Do you have the manpower? Do you have the resources to make that happen? The one that I think is really interesting now in our area is this idea of traditional advertising. Direct mail, print mail, radio, public relations, website. All those are things we've used for years. Are they still viable? Is that something we're still getting our bang for our buck? I know a lot of the print media, we've had a lot of discussion on over the years. Websites too, it used to be a hot topic, and now people are moving more towards social media. It may be different in your area than ours, but look at those, evaluate them. Once again, what is the success indicators? When you put something on your website, what do you expect? When you put something in the print media, how are you going to evaluate that? Coupon? How are you going to bring that through? So, and then social media, that changes, seems like yearly anyway. You can see Eric and I put this together last year, and now we should probably, you got another category, but now we need to add TikTok and probably Snapchat to it. Little bit of difference always as you go down through there. But once again, tailor that towards your own market area. What works in Central Ohio may not. The time it's going to take, cost, and once again, have some way to evaluate that. What is the success indicators that you want to use? So. But the main thing is, when you look at that is the about the marketing. We can talk about the target audience. We can talk about what works and what doesn't, but really the marketing comes back and starts with you and really your farm's image as you go in there too. And it used to be that the farm image started when they walked into your booth or, they pulled up your website years ago. But now there's so much more out there that you really need to, make sure you're aware of what your image looks like on the internet. Eric and I have another presentation we do on maps or digital ready. And we talk about the idea that really you need to control your image. So I would suggest to everybody, set up a Google Alerts that alerts you when something's posted about your farm. Because it used to be we controlled what was out there, the first images that people saw of our operations. But now with YouTube, with Facebook, there's a lot of pictures that are going out there people are putting up or reviews that we're not putting up. We need to make sure that we know what they're about. But the idea is marketing starts with you and your image. Make sure you control that. Make sure you know what's out there, and make sure you got the image out there that you want. You want to comment on that, Eric? Because I think that's a pretty important point as we move through.
So I put that in the chat there to make sure you go to google.com/alerts. You can put in your farm name, put in ways are commonly misspelled. That helps too. And then you'll know when folks post something about your farm or say something or give you a new rating. It's a real helpful thing to find out. And sometimes you'll find out somebody says, well, your farm closed. Well, no, we didn't. Things like that. So it's good to have those alerts out there.
Yeah, and another thing too, guys, when you think about that too, we use it a little bit too. When we use the Google Alerts, we see people that's posted pictures of our farm, so we can contact them and see if we can use that image first of all. And we had one that posted a video of our operation, and we thought, well, this is really great. This is customers talking to the video about how great a time they were having. Okay, so we asked them about linking to that video, and then we used it on our website. So once again, it's also a good place to get some material, to get some quotes about people that love your beef or whatever you may have. So, make sure that you kind of look at that. Like Garrick said, there's how do you set it up and set that up for your farming operation. Good information. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the image that you portray at the farmers market. Here's a picture. Young lady selling wool here, wearing a nice sweater. What does that image say to you about her operation? I care about what I'm doing, right? So she's selling the product. She's wearing the product she's selling. She's
She
looking good. She's
posed.
smiling. Yeah, she's posed when Eric took the picture. It was good. And she has, everything laid out very nicely, very proud of her operation. Who would not be excited about buying from someone like her? She loves her product. She's sold on her product. She's proud of her for her operation. Now let's take a look at the next picture, Eric. Same operation. Now, what is he saying about his brand? I mean, now granted, he could be at the Cabela's Home and Garden Show. We don't know, but he is selling soaps. Looks like he's advertising for Cabela's. He's not advertising for his farm. Probably a really nice guy, very very professional. But once again, from afar, when you look at it, what is that saying about his product and his connection to the farm? You know, if I'm in that situation, I want to advertise my farm. I want my brand on my employees. We're very particular about how we have our employees dress. So, like I say, until you talk to him, you may not realize what a great guy he is. When you look at that, you say, is Cabela selling soap now? Is that what they're all about? No, we want to advertise our farm as we go to, because that's that first contact as people coming in and seeing your operation. Then there's some of the interesting things that happen at different farmers market. This is the gentleman cutting his wife's hair. I took that picture at the Hollywood Farmers Market. And if you ever get a chance out in California, make sure you visit the Hollywood Farmers Market. It's very eclectic, to say the least. But here, once again, it's an organic operation, talking about the health benefits. But inside the booth, the gentleman's cutting his wife's hair. What does that
Oh,
say? Well, sometimes you just have to do that, Eric. You don't have enough time in the day. But what is that saying to
yes.
the what is that saying to the customers? What is that saying about the person that trained them in GAPS training about food safety? It's saying that I'm a little bit lax, so you're like, I don't really know if I want to buy off them. And if you're in a competitive market, that makes it really tough. I always love throwing in the goat yoga thing. Once again, some things should be planned a little better. We got some people around us doing the goat yoga thing, and you don't see that at farmers markets much. But I always think it's interesting because we know that anytime you work with animals, they're going to do what they want to do. I'm sure this young lady here is probably wishing that she wasn't underneath of him at the moment, but it happens. So plan, how you want your booth to look, and plan about what you want people to see as you go through and the experience you want them to have. Once again, here's two different farmers market vendors. We got Susan, and then we got a mother-daughter team. And when you look at those, which looks most inviting to walk up to? When you look at the mother-daughter team, you'll seem to think there's a little friction there. You got mom, she's readjusting the peaches, and you got the daughter giving her the evil eye, like, Mom, are you touching these again? I've already set them up. Then we got Susan, and she's smiling. She's got her herbs in front of her. She's there ready to talk to people, and she's very inviting to bring them in too. So once again, you need to always be on. There's several touch points that we talk about in the presentations about, when you touch your customers, you come into view of the customers. We call it on stage or off stage in our farm. So anyway, you got to realize that you're always on stage. Once again, we already talked about the website. We talked about social media as being touch points. Once again, another touch point is the idea when they come in and they're coming up to your booth. Is it inviting to come up to? Is it something they want? I don't know if I want to go up there. It looks a little crowded, some different things like that. So the idea is that touch point you always need to be on. You got the mother-daughter team. You got Susan smiling. Which of those is most inviting? And and this is really important too, if you have people that that are employees, maybe not family members, make sure you train them that being on or being on stage, you need to make sure that you're portraying the right image for your farm. So, okay,
Great.
moving right
And
along.
Susan is from South Dakota at one of the markets we visited there. So
Yeah.
we'll keep moving along here since we don't have a lot of time. So the second part, I will pull over on the screen. Maybe it won't let me do that. But in the at the Go link where the handouts are, that go.osu.edu/South Dakota, the first handout we'll go through is this, the top 10 strategies for farmers market vendors. So we're going to go through this list, and this list is in order. So these are the things we want you to think about in order, and we'll kind of go back and forth here. The first is tell your farm story. Post pictures of the farm with the owner's picture, the family, the employees that are working, and action shots that they're actually doing something. I love this first slide. You can see this farmer in New York actually got his hands dirty, and he wrote this book about farm hands, that I use my hands to grow this stuff. And he's actually selling tons of those books at the market. The next booth, they have some brochures folks can take and say, this is our story. We are a farm. We're not just somebody out here selling some produce. And then this is another one from our South Dakota visit, the Goosemobile. I thought this was great, talking about, right here, natural free range meats. You can walk right through in one end, out the other, see pictures of the cuts, pictures of the meat. Great explanation of what's happening and that this is a farm. Next, another one. This is actually from Iowa. That came across the border there. Seed time and harvest. It has right on there, Henry and Harriet Kattenberg family. So right on there that this is a family farming operation. So that's the first one, is making sure you tell your farm story. Rob?
Next one is, looking at the brand of your stand. How are you portraying yourself? Once again, I love this picture, psychedelic, Harris Farm Market and Greenhouse, corns and cones. Once again, they can say something about ice cream, but it's corns and cones. The next one you look at too, we see a lot of these types of things where they want to try to put everything they grow or everything they sell at the farmers markets on these flyers, but you can do it in a much more creative way. Look at this. Look how the difference is. We got a tree, and if you look closely, you can see the leaves are representing different products that are at this farmers market. Be creative in your branding. Next there, Derek. Sometimes you can do simple. Farmer, to you, beef. So once again, a farmer selling you beef. You don't have to be fancy about it. You just be creative. I just back up just a second. You may want to have a cleaner cooler behind it. I think that kind of takes away. But remember, those little things like that matter. Okay, now you can go ahead, Eric. So certified or grass-fed bison. Once again, very explicit of what they're doing. Very descriptive in what they're talking about. Go ahead, Eric. I'm running behind. Heirloom tomatoes. Excellent. Once again, Stokey's up in New York grow those, but once again, very descriptive about what they are. It gives you the variety, Aunt Ruby, Hungry Heart, Hungarian Heart, those kind of things, very descriptive, brings you in, and it actually has a little bit of talk about what is a heirloom tomato. Good, Eric.
And those logos right there on the sign. So branding your stand, logos everywhere you can with the farm name on them, including this one of cheese. So we thought that was really interesting that they really pushed that and put one of these stickers every time that somebody got a cut of cheese.
See, that takes a little bit of effort, but it's worth it too. So once again, here's another brand. What does this say? It's open, it's airy, fresh cut flowers from our nursery to your table. Once again, that farm to table type atmosphere. But I like the booth too because it's open and it's inviting for people to come in, plenty of room to walk around. Says a lot when you look at these touch points.
Then number 3, differentiate yourself as a grower. And this counts for any craftsmen that are part of markets. We love the artisans that are markets. We're always kind of skeptical sometimes when it's too crafty and not as much of an artisan type thing. So if the artisan is just like a farmer, they're making their own stuff, it's a trade for them. So when you differentiate yourself, we have several of these signs throughout the presentation, putting together a really slick format for each person to say, here is where our farm is located, here's where we grow, here's how we grow. The next one, we repeated these signs for our urban farms here in Youngstown, Ohio. And this has been almost 10 years ago now, amazingly. And then each year as we get new farms, we put it out here like Ladybug's farm. And she talks about how she uses insects as a way to control the pests on her farm, the good insects. And then looking at this for sun-fed beef. I thought this was one of the most interesting things we saw at one of the green markets. Because I'm like, oh, this is grass-fed beef, right? No, it's not. It's sun-fed beef. So they're being a little tricky. Maybe it's not as genuine as we would like to see them be, but they're putting it out there that actually we do grain-fed, but they're outside. And that's what we're talking about, is that our animals are outside and roam. Showing here free-range eggs. This farmer changed the pictures up every week at a New York market and talked about, well, here's the hens that we have laying this week, and some of the new young hens that are now laying. So pictures every week so they know where those eggs come from. And then looking at things like this, I thought this was a great sign. It was the same farm. Are we really this separated that we have to have organic on this side and conventional on that side? Really trying to be careful about doing this, that we're mixing up organic and conventional. How are you defining that and making sure we're following the rules when it comes to those production practices? And then finally, for differentiating yourself, getting that produce safety, or we call it GAP certification, that you're making sure your produce is safe, making sure that that's up to date, and then even posting that at the market. Rob?
No, and the fourth thing we want to talk a little bit about is educating your customers. And we talk about education, we're talking about a lot of different subject matter we can delve into. First of all, we have the peaches. Once again, they're talking to the customers. If you buy these peaches, it's going to take 1 or 2 days to soften up. So the idea of how to eat them at their peak, this idea of educating the customers about what they're buying. I think that's an excellent way to really develop some real customer loyalty if you can be upfront with them. So go ahead, Eric. So yeah, aren't these crunchy? I mean, and once again, a little bit when we talk about apples or peaches, there's a little bit different varieties for little different things. But once again, happy face, someone you can work with. Okay, Nick.
Happy customers, because
yes.
Too many people think that a nectarine needs to be hard, and I don't get that. But that's the way they grew up, because they bought them that way at the grocery store, and they didn't realize they actually get really soft and juicy. So I always like to put that in there for peaches, that if you're not staining your white shirt, you're not eating the peach right.
And once again, here's some buds that you can use a picture of out there. Once again, 100 days, they will be ripe and juicy. Once again, educating people on the practice of growing a peach, or if you've got an apple or whatever you may have. Once again, educating your customers. Once again, here's an idea of artichokes in the Northeast. Don't know if you can grow them up your way, but the idea of having a few things are a little bit different. Bringing people into some different items, because then they become familiar with the farm, and then they're purchasing some of the run-of-the-mill stuff from you too, also, that they may be able to get down the street. But the idea of being different, educating them on what you can grow and what you grow in your area. Don't be afraid to experiment a little bit too. There's another picture.
Yep, you can start those plants early and get them out there, and people will just be shocked that you have artichokes.
So, and once again, you can do a lot of things through the mail. If you can get their contact information, sign them up for a newsletter, get the latest information. One of the things we talk about a little bit is that we're seeing change in the marketing is people want to buy the why. Why are you in business? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Why do you want to be a farmer? What social causes do you look at? An email newsletter or ways to stay in contact with them is a great way to really develop that customer loyalty, to really develop a fan as you go through. So get as much information as you can from them without being too intrusive. Let them know what you're doing. Give them a chance to opt out if they don't like it. The signage is important. Once again, you can use these kind of markers to change the prices. You can wipe that out and still use the same signs. But once again, look at it. It's educational. It talks about what it contains, vitamin A and potassium, and how you can prepare it. Talks about prep, steam, boiled, grilled, different ways you can prepare that zucchini, because Lord knows zucchini gets enough jokes made about it. So you got to be a little bit better about educating people. Here's Susan again, does an excellent job with the herbs out front. Once again, I think she does an excellent job of this idea of being able to talk to people. Once again, you don't have to educate people through signage. You can educate people through that one-on-one interactions right at the market. Comment, Eric?
Great. Yeah, the signage and her ability to say, you can make a tea out of this and a tea out of that. She knew exactly how to answer questions and was very engaging.
Before
so
you
number
leave
5,
that,
do some simple.
Eric, before you leave that, let me talk about
Sure.
when customers come up to you, they expect, like Susan, they will expect her to be an expert on her product. But not only that, but they will expect her to be knowledgeable about farming in general. So when you're training your employees, make sure that you give them a little broader base. Be an expert on your products and your farm, and then have a general knowledge of what else is going on around you, because you get a lot of those questions. And the more that you can engage them, the more you can get them to come back to you. Okay, sorry about that, Eric. Go ahead.
That's all right. Good deal. Number 5, some simple research. So knowing what customers are actually coming to your booth, what customers are shopping with you, how did they find out about you? What else do they want to buy from you? They love your corn, let's say. Does that mean you should also grow cucumbers, or should you grow flowers? What else would go with that corn and increase that sale per customer? So when we talk about simple research, we want to know our customers more and know what they want. What else will they buy for us? We can change it from a $5 sale maybe to a $15 or $20 sale, because we're offering products that they want. So when we're checking people out, whether it's there or here, we want customers to be engaged. So like Rob said, we want to talk to them, ask them questions. It takes some time to weigh things, to bag things up. So make sure it's not dead space. If you look at our information there on marketing to the 5 senses, it really talks about that silence is deadly when it comes to retail sales. So it's always that hello. It's never that yes or no question. It's the hi, how's it going today? We have peaches, we have this. Let me know if I can help you. Those kind of things. So as he's weighing, he's getting some research by talking to that person. And there's Susan again, doing the same thing. She's asking her, well, what would you really like to get? How much? Engaging. This is how you could use it. If you use it fresh, use it this way. If you use it dry, it's different. So make sure you do a lot of simple, basic research to understand your customers and how to make more profit off of that customer base.
Talk to them about how to use it. We talked a little bit about this in education, but that's how you really bring people in and really get them to try some new products that maybe you like to grow and you think would be good to add into. The idea of looking at it and talk about on your signage. How do you grow it? I love this. Or how do you use it? I love this next slide, Eric. Talks about avocados being a great diet food. Does anybody know how many calories in an avocado? As far as fruits and vegetables, it is fairly high. I mean, granted, compared to an Oreo, it is really low cal. So that is a true statement. But the idea is trying to educate and talk to people. Once again, wow, what a deal! And some great evening with avocados. Once again, maybe taking them out of their norm of what they're usually doing too. In the next slide here, you can see a little bit too. It talks about the broccoli, how you can lightly steam it and retains the color, so you can make the meal more attractive. Once again, telling people how to use your product. Here's some other too, bok choy, something we don't see every day. So you have to talk a little bit about to try it, to bring them in too. Once again, talks about the type of dressing that works well with it. Educating your customers helps them to branch out a little bit, because a lot of people like to try new things. They're just unsure of what to do with it once they get it home too. So,
One of the big complaints I hear, and that's why we have this one on tell them how to use it, is we want to add new seed varieties. We want to add new things every year. We want to try different products. But if nobody really understands what Tatsoi is, then you really need to tell them how to use it. So putting that right on the signs, customers are afraid to ask questions. We do have the inquisitive ones that won't stop asking us questions, but in general, people don't want to ask. But if you have it in the sign, they might be like, oh, I didn't know that I could put sesame oil and ginger with that, and that makes a tasty meal. So remember to tell your customers how to use your products, especially when you have something new.
Right. And it opens up that conversation, just like you said, Eric. Once they got a little bit of information, they're more willing to ask other things.
So next is providing convenience. So in this picture, it's not the prettiest booth, but what I really liked about this, and they put the tape down, everything's priced. It's easy to get. It's convenient to know what the price is. Price, like Rob said at the beginning, is really not, they don't care that much about price. They care about a quality product that's going to taste good to them. So if you look at this, the real reason I took this picture is from a food safety perspective. I can pull that plastic bag up around that produce, hand it to them, get the money, and away I go. And I'm not handling money and touching produce. So from a food safety point, that's the real beauty of this photo. Then next, if we have enough money in the marketing budget and we sell enough acres of blueberries, having a bag that has all these details about the blueberry farm, foremost in quality. So really educating them, and then they have something home to remind them that it's our farm. Also convenience with these bags. This is Stokey's again that Rob was talking about earlier. Here's the other days you can go to other markets. So if you are a serious farmers market fan and making some good money there, you can say, well, on Wednesday you're here, but Thursday we're here, Friday we're here. Have that information available at all markets, so they know if they miss you on Wednesday, they can drive 5 miles the other way on Thursday and find you. So provide that convenience. It's especially good here, using Square. That's become pretty much a norm, the way we have to make it convenient for people to pay. Having an ATM in some cases, but then there's fees involved. And I even like that this person put, I won't be here next week. I'm planting trees, so stock up on my apples. Okay, number 8.
Oh, I love this one, Eric. I'm a big fan of creating that wow. And there's nothing better at creating that wow is putting together a nice display using colors that really complement each other to really pop as far as the display. You look at the tomatoes in front. We got greens, we got yellows, we got the reds, we got some little darker red ones, almost purple. You blend those together, it brings people in. Just red, hey, these are good, solid tomatoes, but they don't have that wow as far as the display. So let's flip on to the next one there, Eric. Use those colors when you can, but you don't really want to overdo it. Here's some heirloom carrots on a really wild looking tablecloth. Once again, when you're walking up, are you going to lose your product in the tablecloth itself? So be a little bit cautious when you put your product out there. These heirlooms carrots are pretty awesome by themselves, but when you put it on the tablecloth, you kind of get lost in it too. And Eric and I were talking earlier about, we've seen some maple syrup displays, and you see the maple syrup is in kind of a brownish container, and then they're sitting on a brown tablecloth that's got maple syrup logos on it, and you kind of lose the product. You want to focus on the product, but you want to create that wow with colors and stacking at different levels, as we can see here too. You got the greens, you got the idea of stacking it high and watching it fly. That's the old adage. When you put that out there, if you have abundance, people come in. Once again, looking at that wow factor through color, greens and whites and the red that we look at too. And even some of the product you may not have a lot of and you don't sell a lot of, but if it's colorful and adds to display, stick in those radishes, stick in different things that add that little wow to your display. It'll bring people in and they will buy a little bit of everything as they go down through there. Once again, keep it looking abundant also along with that color.
Great. Then on to number 9, and I have a disclaimer on this one, but this one's serious. Pay more to be a vendor. And the reason we say this, and the reason I have a disclaimer, is we want to make sure the markets that we're going to as farmers, that they have a marketing plan for the market, that they have customers. There's nothing worse than going to a market and taking home $100 and most of what I grew at the end of the day. I want that market that if I'm going to pay a market fee, I don't mind if it's more if I have lots of customers. So we'll get to this in the second half of the presentation here when we talk about the best attributes of farmers markets. But there's all kinds of things, the marketing, the management, and so on. So this shows Athens Farmers Market. This is from their website today. They have a post in the middle of winter because they have Z Bakery says that we're not going to be able to come in, but we have these other things you can do. So having somebody actively managing this Facebook makes a big difference. It's that marketing manager, that market manager that's also doing marketing, talking to customers there, explaining what farms are there, what farms have to offer. At an information booth, and this is, I think this is the one in Kansas. Yeah, she's selling sodas, but she's been there a long time. She even has a lost and found, but she's serious about sharing her skills as a market manager and keeping that market moving.
Number 10, we talk about working with the community. We've even gone so far on our farm is we see the community as one of our main keys when we talk about it. We want to make the community better because we're a part of it. And that's becoming more and more prevalent with our farmers markets and our farm markets. The idea is when they talk about local, the food and where it's grown is only one part of that. The other part is being part of the community, supporting the community. And as farmers market vendors, we can go a long way in doing that. I know you can go ahead and flip the next one. I know that in our area, our Chamber of Commerce loves us because we go downtown and we bring people into the other businesses there. They shop us, they shop them. It gives them a reason to come down there. So work within the community here. Here's the Vermont Farmers Food Center. Also, we have the Double Up. Go ahead, Eric. We have the Double Up program and the go ahead and flip that up, Eric.
For EBT.
EBT.
So
Yeah.
a lot of
Program.
our markets are doing this, where you can get the coins or certificates. This is one in New York City Health Department. They provided these certificates, and then to the folks that have EBT or SNAP benefits, and then they give them to you, and they can spend twice as much. They can stretch their dollars. That's a big thing these days. And then making sure you're promoting that if you accept EBT, that you're putting that out there.
Yeah. Then the other thing too is use that opportunity within the farmers market to help community causes. Here's an opportunity for someone to come in and do a little fundraiser for them. Once again, benefiting that community, because once again, when we talk local, we're talking about support of the community that we're in too. I think that's a vital point. Then when we go in there, actually, that's going back to selling the why. Why are we in business?
Great. And then on to the markets themselves. So this conversation, if you're a market manager, it's really a list of some things that for you to think about. If you're a vendor, it's the things that you need to look at when you're trying to pick the best market to go to. Maybe you have two at the same time. So you have to pick which one to go to. What is that? How do we pick the best place that's going to be profitable for us? But I would like everyone to use this to help make their markets better. When we first did this, we did this with the Farmers Market Coalition and really talked to them about what do you think? And they've used this and taken it many other directions and done more survey work. But we did this on the ground to really look at farmers markets and what makes the best ones. So why? Well managed is well organized, period. So a market that's well organized is going to attract more customers because quality attracts quality. So you can't afford not to have the best vendors possible with you at the market. Please don't see them as competition. See them as that you're bringing some customers because they like corn and maybe they have strawberries. So that's why they're coming for that strawberry booth, to really think about what quality is and how customers will come to purchase that. And that time is money. So this is what I was talking about, where it's worth paying more to be a vendor if you're going to make more of that market. So, and I know some markets are more government funded, or the Chamber of Commerce helps out like they do in Rob's hometown there. And that's fine if it's not as expensive, but do your research. And the point is to make sure they have a good marketing plan and provide a good customer base for your farm. Their marketing finally there makes the market. Image is indeed everything. So the list this time is in no particular order. We didn't think there was one reason. These are just 10 ideas to make sure that we're helping farmers markets be the best they can. So this is based on our observations, talking to market managers, and it's also been reviewed by a lot of folks in Ohio and around the country. Is it perfect? No, but it's a great discussion point to think about how we can be better. The first one is a marketing plan and advertising schedule. So kind of like what Rob introduced at the beginning, that one-page marketing plan. It's pretty simple to do. A lot of people kind of freak out when they hear marketing plan. What do you mean I got to write all this? And somebody said it's 25 pages. Let's pull it to one. And you could take that idea we've put together for one-page marketing plan, take it to your farmers market meeting and say, what can we do? Who's in charge of what social media we're going to be on, and have it done after a meeting or two and have an idea of what to go on for the future. But hopefully there's a market manager that can do a lot of that and you're just helping out. So who puts these signs up in the morning to make sure folks know the market's coming? How much signage is there that says follow us, check us out on social media, buy our products, see us at other spots, visit our farms that come and are vendors here? Who puts together that logo? I think this is great. Raleigh's Downtown Farmers Market. And at first, when you look at something like this, you're like, I'm not sure I can quite read that. But their point here was slowing you down as you read, because they're a farmer's market. They want you to slow down and enjoy it a little bit. So I thought that was an interesting concept that they took there. This is Clintonville Farmers Market. This is in Columbus, Ohio, really big metropolitan area. It's very expensive to be a market vendor here, and it's worth every penny, because when you go there for a day, you're going home with a couple $1,000s sold. You can fill up your truck and you're going to make every penny. You're going to sell everything by the end of the day. So really worth it to look at some places like this. How do they do things? How do they get people to come? Another one I really loved was at Union Square. We also did the green markets in New York City, and I thought this was interesting. How many markets actually strategically place vendors, or do they allow vendors to just first come, first serve to pick a spot? The market decided it's better for vendors and for customers if everybody has their spot. So they always know they can find the twin spruce apiary at the same place here every Saturday morning. They know they can always find the milk at this location. Mapping out. And what's interesting is, depending on where you are, your fee to be a vendor could be different. A really interesting way of doing it. And a lot of farmers really like that I can pick my spot and I know where I'm going to be. In New Mexico, there's things about writing your marketing plan. So besides our one-page marketing plan, I won't leave it all for us. New Mexico has some good stuff out there for the farmers market themselves to write a good marketing plan. I thought this was great. We're open, we're here, it's 2020. Here's how you can drive through our market if you're that concerned and have some safety concerns because of COVID. Rob?
The second thing, we want to talk a little bit about this idea of knowing who your vendors are. Inspect them and verify them. You know, a lot of markets I go to, there's a lot of people talking, well, they really don't raise that. They really don't do this. But if you're in a market that really looks at it, inspects the vendors, then that takes a lot of that guesswork out. Here's the Athens Farmers Market, and they really define, 150-mile radius of Athens, Ohio. That's who's there. A grower, it's a person who raises their product locally. Processor, locally grown ingredients, but they may process it, an added value product or beef product, a protein product, something like that. Grower is a person or an organization who raises him or her own products on the land. So anyway, they define it, they verify this is who we have in the market. Other markets also talk about, when you go down through and they verify people who their signage matches, so everybody knows exactly what they mean by it. Naturally grown, homegrown, raised locally. I guess we'd have the sun-raised beef, Eric, if that's sold in that market, defining
Yeah.
that too. And then if you're in that market, then you can use those kind of terminology in your advertisement. Here's the idea. We grow, we're a grower, so we know what that means. And then it talks about what kind of products they grow and then when they're there. Once again, that all works together if you're in a market that really inspects and verifies who's there and what products that they're selling and how they're related to that product.
Great. Third is markets that are serious about having a market manager. Like I said earlier, somebody's got to get the signs out. Somebody's got to change traffic if you're closing down the street. Who is actually going to do that work? And these market managers, a lot of them are volunteers. Most of us don't have money to market to pay someone. They provide a lot of good information for us. Hopefully, are helping educate us and providing consumers with the answers they need. They're also paying attention to things like safety. At a lot of markets, we have a lot of wind come up and we have a lot of tents. So looking at what are those requirements for concrete and anchoring down tents to make sure that it's safety is being observed. So making sure that we're looking and make sure we're serious about having a market manager and giving the manager the authority about those rules that Rob said in the last one about inspecting vendors and such, that if you have rules, the market manager is empowered to enforce those rules. Rob?
And when you get in there too, in the market, it's always good to visit the market before you jump into it. If you want to have a good one, don't skirt the rules. Your county or state, I don't know what they are up there, but in Ohio, there's certain rules and regulations. Inspections, one of them. I'm sure there's the same in South Dakota, that you really have to abide by. Once again, we talk a lot about being authentic. Being authentic means I tell you what I am. What I say I am. And that's what I want to be. So in beef products, make sure you have it inspected. Make sure it's has all the right stamps that you need on the or on your product. Go ahead, Eric. So once again, never assume anything. Look for that make sure that everything is taken care of as far as rules and regulations. Because once again, if you start letting a few people slide, then you have a bigger problem. Make sure that everybody's in there. You're assuming what they're doing. Like this picture too, because I don't know about South Dakota, but in Ohio, if you're selling by a poundage, you need certified scales. You need MTEPT scales that can be certified. So once again, don't try to skirt around this. We had a big issue in our farmers market up here, Eric, was the idea that, they're too expensive. We can't afford to do this. And then the county auditor come down and just started closing people down because once again, they were selling a product that they weren't sure was weighing what it needed to be. And we did find some scales that were off, but once again, a good farmer's market will provide some of those scales according to what you do. The other thing is make sure that you're meeting all labeling requirements. Here's an idea. Here's an opportunity or a example of fairly plain packaging. But once again, they have the ingredients right on the label, so they're meeting the requirements that they have to sell that product. Be what you say you're going to be. Be authentic. Here's the Athens Farmers Market. Once again, talking about here's the rules and regulation. Processor. And what the customer should expect from those type of people. Once again, looking at it and saying, this is a product we're selling, and make sure that all your customers feel very secure in the safety and that they are getting an authentic product. That helps the whole market if everybody abides by the rules. One of the big things is, and you can see it in there, is that mobile food service license that people have to come in and sell in Ohio. Making sure everybody has that type of thing. It helps the whole market all the way through.
Great. Okay, number 5, involve the community through activities and events. Now, this one's taken a hit because of COVID, but there's still opportunities to do some different things, even during these times, and depending on what's happening locally there in South Dakota. But think about what events. We had some book signings, somebody that did different things. We had cooking demos, kids activities. They can come and they can plant seeds. They can cut apples and do stamping, different things like that. You can have some live music at the market. This was in Alabama at one of our conferences. We can look over at the market and see the ship that's docked there. And then even thinking about community workshops. So some things that can be involved, not necessarily just the market, but at the site where the market is. So people are used to going to that as a public space. That can help quite a bit and ensure that we're getting more people to say, okay, I go there for this. I should go there for the farmer's market as well. Okay, number 6.
Yeah. A lot of markets, and this is really a good thing, is to require certain kind of signage on your vendor booths and your products. That's, once again, not only do you want to brand your individual booths, but you also want to brand the market. You want to make sure that they're at a certain level when you go in, because once again, success breeds success. They want to be part of something successful. If you have a good branded booth, you look here, certain signs required. We talked a little bit about the definitions. Make sure the signage contains the right definitions. Here's 2 examples of, they got the farm name, they got the prices, it's all out there. People can really feel confident when they're coming to that market. And our customer confidence is really what we want to do when we're servicing our customers. Love the next picture, Eric. This idea of, really high quality plants you're looking
$6.
at too. Yeah. So yeah, and they can sell them for a premium once again, because people come in there looking for a certain quality. Once again, it's not the price as much, it's the value that they're getting. And once again, with the required signage, and everybody knows what to expect from the market, you draw a certain level of clientele, and then all your vendors can benefit from it. Zucchini, once again, talking about what the prep and everything like that with it. But once again, the farm name's right there. A lot of this stuff, if everybody's the same, then it really benefits the whole market. There's goes, and you don't have to be fancy. Hang them up high, because a lot of times you get the signage down. It's hard for people to see them. You get them up there, even if they're written. Hopefully they're legible. You need them legible, but if they can be written out there, people see them. They can walk up. They know what they're buying. And they know how much it's going to cost. Those are when people look at it, they want to know how they can pay for it, how much it's going to cost them, and what they're getting. Those are the things you need to go out there. Those are the kind of things that a lot of people can help. Uh, uh, a market can help with the vendors. If your market's in a certain location, you may want to have the information in a couple different languages. It really depends on what your target audience is. Here's one that's in Spanish. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, great. Next is provide workshops. So a lot of what we're doing tonight, what you're doing through this whole series, provide workshops for vendors, how to build better displays, how to make sales, how to talk to customers, what are some new varieties you need to look at, how do you brand the farm stand, what are those different things folks can do. And in some markets even have this as a requirement that says you need 5 hours of continuing education if you are going to sell at our market. And that helps them improve everybody's marketing skills in some way, because as we all get better, our whole entire market benefits from each vendor being better. I liked this. We have these kind of classes in Ohio, licensed to sell kind of programs. Her name's Emily Marison. She teaches these programs through Family Consumer Sciences about what are ODA's rules, what kind of foods can you make with a license, can you get a home bakery license, things like that, to be able to sell at the market. We really want you to think about who you can partner with to do some of these classes. Extension, like who we work for in there in South Dakota, is able to help, and they're able to find different topics and be able to teach those, especially with Zoom. It's so much easier these days. There's also in your communities usually small business development centers, local tourism, chambers of commerce, farm bureau type groups, community colleges. You can even use community college and high school classes to really look at marketing plans for farmers markets. So think about that. And if you want to be a little fancier, look to local community foundations, and maybe they'll give you a small grant of $300 or $400 to pay a speaker to help out and do some workshops for the market. Number 8.
Once again, don't be afraid of markets that really have a nice mix, especially with the added value, because it really helps you extend your hours. And if you have the right location, you can really go all year long. But I always loved when we were in the farmers market to have that booth next to an added value type operation, because it brings people in some kind of the off seasons. And we were more of a fall farm selling there. So we enjoyed those kind of vendors, and it really helped the whole market as you go in. But Eric?
So even some goat cheese, goat soap, I'm sorry, out of season. So really looking at what are some alternative year-round stuff. And we'll get to that in a little more detail here in just a minute on the last one.
Goat products sell great. I'm just going to tell you that right now. We raise goats.
Yeah.
We don't sell soaps and stuff, but anyway, really a big hot item right now. Wineries are also big, huge. There are some local breweries coming up too. A lot of these alcoholic beverages really add to the market. Other things you can extend the season with, the high tunnels is great. You can start things earlier. You can go a little bit later. You can bring those fruits and vegetables, good produce into the market.
Great. So it leads us right into number 9, completing a vendor gap analysis. So what we just talked about is some alternative vendors, some folks that are extending the season to say, gosh, we could really be 12 months. Maybe we're only going to have 6 or 8 vendors during the winter and 30 during the summer, or whatever it is. But how can you do that little vendor gap analysis? So how many spots are there? What percent are fruits or vegetables, meats, eggs, processed? Trying to get a good mix of all this stuff. We don't want every vendor just to sell sweet corn or every vendor to just sell meat. Trying to make sure that we look at what are some other farms we need to bring in to have a situation where folks can do a lot of their shopping at the market. And we talk about this, we talk about life isn't always fair, because Clintonville market is one that does this, but they do it to the nth degree. So if you're bringing in sweet corn, sorry, you can't come in because we already have 10 sweet corn growers. But if you decide that you can bring tomatoes, yes, you can bring tomatoes, but don't bring your sweet corn with the tomatoes. So I don't think any of you would get that strict about vendor gap analysis, but I'm hoping you would at least look at what items are missing that should be at a farmer's market. Talking about getting those orange carrot or red carrots we showed, talking about getting different varieties in there. So competition does still exist, but you can't be just that sweet corn only kind of market. So there are lots of tools out there. We can provide some for you. If you're looking at 50 spots and you're looking at 4 seasons, what vendors are going to be there each season, and making sure that you have a kind of a mix across like this, the summer fruit, summer veg, summer meat, cottage foods, processed stuff, that you have a whole mix of those things, nursery products, Christmas trees, whatever it is. So a vendor gap analysis this time of year will really help you improve your market and get more vendors that might be selling different things.
And number 10, let's make it fun. I've always argued that farmers markets, wineries claim it, but they're not. The original agritourism destinations are farmers markets, because every farmer that I've ever met's a character. People love to meet them. They love to talk to them. So make it fun. Once again, here's an example of an Henri farm. Who wouldn't want to go on an Henri farm tour? That sounds like a lot of fun. Once again, they come to the market for not only the produce, but for the experience. So let's make it fun as they go into. Here's an opportunity to provide them a meal, local foods. Once again, that savory touch point that we talked about earlier. Eric?
I thought this delivery was great. I had to look at this. Rob's like, what is that on there?
Exactly. What's on that guy's back?
It's a beet. He's delivering farmers market stuff to you. So I thought that was a great way to kind of throw something out there, because sometimes we get real fancy with logos, and this, you might think it's too fancy, but then you must be like, wait a minute, is that a witch on a bike? But it makes you stop and think about what it is. So think about being a little different when you do your marketing and make sure it's fun. This is the other fun thing I thought was great, Rob.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime you can engage the kids, it's great. You're going in there and they're, I don't know what they're actually doing, but they're making characters out of vegetables. So that, this is a way you can engage the kids. Once again, the parents are coming for the experience. If you can really engage the youth, then that goes a long way to making the adults happy and wanting to bring them back too. Make it fun.
Okay, and then the last slide there, I put it in the chat there as well. I don't know why it's not showing up on my screen, but it's go.osu.edu/South Dakota. That has all the handouts that we talked about tonight. Gives you a lot of verbiage too about those top 10 and the 10 for the farmers markets. All the slides you saw tonight, and also on that site, when you click back to the rest of the blog, you'll see a lot of their presentations we've done the past several weeks across the country that might help you spark that one idea that help you make more money this season.
Yeah, I see the link, Eric. It is up, so we're good shape. So
Great.
be sure to click on that. There's a lot of things you can use, and even if you don't think it pertains to you, click on it anyway, take a look at it. There may be some stuff you can use. Okay, any questions? We'd love to
Okay.
chat.
Well, I have a question, I guess. In looking at all these booths and all of the, really all the branding that they require is just amazing to me. All the signage and the labels and the different things that you need to have for branding. I was wondering if you have any suggestions for resources that would be like templates or you know, some software that's easy that people could be referred to, or what you suggest there to get kind of get a handle on all the different items you need.
Actually, I just put in the chat, I wrote a signage fact sheet just a couple years ago that talks about how you can do a lot of that stuff low cost. Some of the things that Rob and I shared there, some of those are a little more expensive, a little more detailed. But you can do, Rob showed that picture that the guy just had simple pieces of paper with laundry clips on them on it, like a clothesline, with his prices up there, and that looks okay. And as long as it's not sloppy handwriting, use a ruler and make it even. I talk in mine about cutting pieces of cardboard, different sizes, as long as there's not writing on it, and then get somebody that has nice handwriting to fill in the blanks for you. So you can do a lot of those things. We showed a lot of signs with logos on there, and then using those China markers to write in prices. That's really a lot less inexpensive than it used to be. For $10 to $25 on Amazon or at your local Walmart, you can pick up a little laminator that will laminate any 8.5 by 11 piece of paper you have. So that's what a lot of farms have done, is gone to those, because when you do cardboard or other paper, things get wet at farmers markets. The weather blows things away. But if you can laminate stuff, you can do it inexpensively, and then you can write on with those China markers, and that makes a big difference. But I put the link in there to the signage fact sheet, and it talks about the purpose of signage, tips to create some creative signage, and then choosing a canvas and materials, as well as, I think Rob actually authored some of this at the end, when to hire a professional, because some of these things do require a professional. But if you're doing it yourself, like a lot of us do, plenty of tips in there for you.
Yeah.
Great.
And we, on our farm too, we like to use Coroplast. Basically, it's just plastic cardboard like, because you can write on it, you can reuse it, and really if it gets wet, you really it'll really hold up well. We use a lot of that. You can see they use it to make the political signs and stuff too. So it does really well in an outside atmosphere and fairly cheaply too.
I have a question. Oops, sorry about that. My husband and I are selling beef, and I'm just kind of curious, what are some examples of marketing you've seen at farmers markets? It gets kind of complicated, I think, when you have to keep it in the freezer. You know, we can put some pictures out and different things, but if there's other things that you guys have seen, I would be just kind of curious of how other people do meats.
Great. I've seen all kinds of stuff. I'm sure Rob here in a second will share some stuff he's seen. I've seen clear plastic over different coolers, so folks can see the packaging, like a sample of a cut of a steak, a sample roast, a sample package of ground beef, those kind of things. Even if you can do your own videos and have on your site, that's great to show people how you're cooking and making things. Because a lot of people, I know my mother-in-law is like, why would you ever have ground pork? And I'm like, what? You make sausage patties. Like, I think that's pretty simple, right? But they were used to a lot of more processed kind of things. So showing them the natural cuts, showing them what it can be used for, I think it's fine. Rob showed the picture of the cooler up on top, just making sure that's clean. I thought that was a great point he made there. Get out the scrub brush and scrub that up if you're going to have it on top of the table. So vacuum packaging, most of us have all moved to that. Most of the processing plants, local processors, as much as you can have those kind of things out, that's great. The other thing you might think of is getting your processor to make a couple empty vacuum packaging with that logo and stuff on it. So you can say, here's what it looks like. You might also say roasts range from 1 pound to 2.5 pounds, or give them some ranges on there. Those kind of things help too, because a lot of people look at that and think, that's huge. I wouldn't eat that in a certain amount of time. So packaging is also important. It's sometimes hard with our local processors to say, we want exactly 1 pound hamburger every time, right? And then it comes out there 1.12, 1.38, 0.97. And it drives me crazy as a direct marketer, because we sell meat at our home farm, to have to go through that. But as much as you can, just have some samples out there and photos. Also, remember, Rob talked about the prices the guy had above his head. Have a lot of that up to where if you saw the grass-fed bison sign, have cuts of meat pictures below that. I know a couple of folks that also have for 4-H, we sell these. It's a 36 by 24 inch laminated piece, and it's all the cuts of beef. If you could have something that size to say, well, what are you really looking for? That would help have a good conversation with a customer. Rob?
Yeah, everything Eric said, I think cleanliness is a big seller. Thing I've really kind of got a better feel for than I used to when Eric and I used to talk about using QR codes. If you make videos and stuff, sometimes it's hard for people to get to them because you're typing in a big long website. Using QR codes now on your mobile phones, you don't have to go to an app anymore. All you have to do is use your camera, and it'll take you to those sites. So QR codes on your booth, QR codes on your product to show how you cook them. Also, I don't know, what your markets require as far as refrigeration or freezer space. Our market here requires mechanical a freezer to keep the meat in. Other ones, can get away with a cooler that's kept at a certain temperature. But the big thing, and Eric already mentioned this idea to be able to see the cuts, to see what you're getting. Because if you walk in a grocery store, those meat cases are really enticing for you to come into. So if you can use some lighting, and there's some way you can let the people view that. A lot of our outdoor markets, the lighting's great anyway, sometimes not so much, but the idea of being able to see those cuts as we come out there. And once again, Eric already mentioned this, but the idea of having the cuts that service to your customers. Used to be we have bigger families, we get away with bigger cuts, but now we're looking at smaller families, maybe even some people that are empty nesters. Much different a sales pitch with them than you're going to have to be with the family. But the idea is to know what your market allows, and the idea of letting your people see those and really be able to get to your videos and your marketing stuff as easy as possible.
And Rob brings up a good point there. We didn't talk about lighting because a lot of farmers market vendors don't really do that yet. But as I see some of the grocery, we have a called Giant Eagle here in Ohio. They have taken rope lighting as you go through the checkout, and if you look at the candy bars and gum, and they have brightened that up so much it almost hurts my eyes. But I guess the sales of that stuff is through the roof when they change that lighting. So lighting, we know from a retail standpoint, is very important. So thinking about, it's now cheap to get these strings of copper lights with a battery pack on them. The battery lights last for a while. A lot of us, if you're selling beef in Ohio, some places you have to have a generator to be able to create electricity. Start thinking about how you can add lighting to really make produce, meat, and all the other items look even better. That will increase your sales more than a lot of other display opportunities you might have.
Just create the wow that brings people in, and if you can be different from the vendor down the street, that makes a big difference.
Any other questions? Well, I don't see any in the chat, so thank you, Eric and Rob. Yeah, we've got a lot of thanks coming in from everyone. We really appreciate you taking your time tonight to be with us live here. It's again that kind of personal connection, and we appreciate that you have experience with South Dakota and had some really practical advice for everybody here. So we will have this recording available pretty soon, and I will just wrap up the meeting if everyone is, if no one has any more questions. Great.
Remember, you have our contact information, so don't be afraid to reach out.
Well,
Always willing to chat.
oh, thank you. Thanks very much. Great. And thanks everyone for coming in tonight and getting
Stay
started
warm.
with the series.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Thanks a
Great
lot.
night.
Take care. Everybody take care.
Good night.
Night.